Welcome to the lovely HP community and the 5D collective. We get to be our true selves in the infinite higher human consciousness potential experience, and that is because we metabolize our emotions. There's no emotional virus, so you don't get a emotional contagiousness from each other, but there is this thing called nervous system. So because we know how to metabolize our nervous system, it's a securely attached, non-traumatized person. Mindfulness practices are useful because of us having mindsight skills. So when you're sifting through sensations, images, the feelings and thoughts, I have attachment trauma education in my back pocket, but remember I'm the woo-woo pseudoscience lady because I'm a 5D mystic. And so as a mystic, I also am spiritual, but some are not, right? And so the mindfully living, loving people, which at IHP we have a bunch of them, no, science and spirituality come together to prove, the sciences people do, that your ventral vagal state is actively your restorative embodiment, and that's because you, a human, can achieve this. And that's why the infinite higher human conscious potential experience is all available at IHP, at least for the people doing self-help and personal development and spiritual growth seriously. And then we make fun of our brothers and sisters who don't want therapy, not because we want to make fun of people, but they actively have created, my gosh, are we going to have a good time? So I have new stories. That way you bring forth your humanity, so do I. And we continue to know that brothers and sisters of fear will, well, populate the hemisphere, no, the entire, digital sphere with their stories. And this is the very thing that I love. I love stories, and I'm going to do storytelling right now. But to be clear, spiritual growth happens when you have access to that which is source, spirit, yours, and or if you're again of science, then I'm going to say when you have access to your prefrontal cortex. That's because you know how to use the left. You put your left foot in and the right foot in, and you don't get sloppy. So you don't use any of the drinking, the drugging, the fucking, or the inner and outer critic. You don't use Lucifer's name. You don't use spiritual bypassers, excuses for why, the feeling alive when you're dead. No, that doesn't happen. Okay, so grounded in reality is what we are. Every one of our cherishable beliefs is potentially falsifiable, but it's not in a way of us be destabilized. That's who's we, the intelligent ones. So we're not in any kind of, oh my God, Jesus, controversy. Nope, we just know that those who are divisive are definitely not. This thing got defined to me by someone. Demonic spirit, by definition, seeks to hurt, kill, divide, demoralize any people. I'm going to say that's everybody who's against a good therapist who are telling me that my brothers and sisters are all healable. So with that being said, if only the world isn't black and white. So any smart brain will know that, which is why anytime you hear anybody using this and then they're using it against the group that the other person doesn't like, they'd be smart enough to know, wait a minute, is Wendy dressing up the mermaids to be mean because she's jealous of the mermaids? Or maybe it's not jealousy, she's just obtuse about it because so when you see trauma being perpetuated by people, yes, it's trauma charges, not because they have to have had developmental childhood trauma. No, but the ones who did have developmental childhood trauma, some of them get off on people hurting because they actively thrive off of that which is physical pain upon another human being. Yes, it's very disgusting, and that's not an energy vampire. Actively, I've had people in my energy sphere. It's simply... So you have implicit memory, and so do I. 0-1-year-old, attached, panicky. Then there's 3 to 7 shame, submissive. And what you want to understand is I got to talk back. And when I did get a spanking, I was able to make my suitcase and then leave. No, I didn't leave. But the point is, I wasn't afraid to speak up. I said, you can't spank me. It's my body. And when she was done spanking me, my mother, I went to make the suitcase. Okay, so that shows you the differentiated self I am. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel. My thoughts, my feelings. Okay, so we all have experiences. That's why Robert Sapolsky, with his book Determined, if science is correct with him, then none of us have free will, and I'm going to be hanging out with the infinite higher human consciousness potential experiencing people because like-minded voices come together. I mean, do we want it to always be one note? No, but we are one note. Who's we? The 5D collective. It's a higher frequency. It's always on, and that's because you have a securely attached and untraumatized life. You know how to self-regulate in a healthy way not maladaptive patterns. You don't need to numb yourself with alcohol, drugs, or fucking people. You don't actually want to stay in a body that is weighed down and think that death is easier than living, because you'll know that that actually means your pseudo alive life is what's going on. And so unfortunately the sympathetic dorsal vagal are the only thing you know. You don't want to feel that it's stressful to be around people, because then that means that you still are scanning self and other in a way of being afraid, because at home, somewhere, shape, or form, you were not allowed to be angry, and you were not allowed to have your emotional body online. Let me actually read to you something from Patrick Jahan. He makes it very clear, because he's a childhood trauma survivor who's healed and healing, I always say, and he's a good therapist. So he talks about the emotional body when it's offline. No, it's only disconnected. That's why smart people like Rick Hansen, PhD, will tell you most pain has no gain. In other words, it wears down the immune system, disrupts the gastrointestinal system, impacts the nervous system, and leads to depression. I've seen it, I continue to see it, and even the ones who just use trauma in their mouth, they keep doing the same thing. So I leave alone hypocrites, by the way, because they totally don't take care of themselves. And I have nothing to do with people who are cowards, because you leaving your inner child to rot in hell inside your own body, self-loathing, gut-wrenched, torn apart, maladaptive patterns of behavior, drinking, drugging, fucking, inner outer critic. I gotta see him in college. I gotta see him as I'm growing up. I'm like, what the hell? And now I'm attachment, trauma informed. So mystic or not, I'm consistently, Maria's gonna have to put the mask on. You want to call it selfish, go for it, but you sound like an asshole right now, because really, if I plug your nose, you're going to also put it out. So the fact that people have a chip on their shoulder towards human beings means that their faith in humanity was broken in their childhood, and they didn't go get it healed. I don't want to deal with you, mean person. Which is why I feel mean when I'm going to be saying all of those who are not healing, they're all cowards. Why would I feel mean? Because I know that your childhood didn't begin nice, but I also know that you're not doing anything to get out of it except for treating your body like shit and then saying that I'm a stupid one. I'm not stupid, but I can be stupid. So people who don't take accountability for their own inner child, I don't have anything nice or mean to say, but they will think I mean, am I not decent enough to be saluted? Says some random human being who I consistently not want to be friends with, because that's what unhealthy self-worth people do, which are grown-ups, by the way. Oh, there's plenty of women that do things. Well, you should have known better. You could have known better. You know what? I don't want you to be friends with the girl who's a lover like I am with a... Seriously? Wow. So there's a bunch of people who definitely, Patrick Chan, I tell them they could come to you. They don't want to. Your feelings are not lost. They're just disconnected. Anger, sadness, disgust, and joy. So here's where he gives a very good example, which is why I want to read it to you. And that's because usually people will recognize when they have something. So he says, a top tier sign of childhood trauma is not having full access to our basic human emotions that we are born with. And he lists them. When I started in therapy, he says, all I could feel was shame and anxiety. I was scared of the fact that I couldn't feel joy, spontaneity, and real grief or appropriate sadness. I was intimately aware of feeling numb. Intimately aware. So whenever I hear this, I'm like, yep, Patrick, I know a bunch of people who ignore this and they tell me, no, I don't want to go to therapy. I really feel uncomfortable. You can't make people want to take responsibility, accountability for their nervous system, not to mention to actually be their true self. My facade friend is why I don't yell people in the face anymore. No, he's the only brother that I actually like, okay, dude, what the hell? And that's because we had a very specific situation that went down. So this is a story my regular listeners know about. My facade friend is what I call him, and he and I chose to not speak to him for a whole 5 years because he disrespected our friendship. He thinks it's for a ride, which shows you what adaptive, immature child people think. They're actively petty. And then they think of being compassionate as something petty. Or they think that you can look at more than 2 or 3 things as hypocrisy. Half-brained people don't know how to use their brain. In fact, they won't even admit it to themselves. I have no room for biologically rude people because, as Stephen Porges points out, they don't hear you. As Jesus points out, forgive, they don't know, and please don't cast stones, and blessed are those who believe. And basically, I met teenagers when I was a teenager, so I just don't waste my fucking time. Masculines is how I could put it to you, and that's why God chimes in. Maria, stop judging human suffering. As judging is not good or bad. No, bad is when you're doing cocaine and you're a lawyer and you are fucking and cocaine. All of that is bad because it's actively bad for you, not because it's Lucifer. No, there's no monster. There's no monster in traumatized bodies. There's people who don't want to go get healed. That's it. That's why I have nothing to say. I can't physically say anything to somebody who doesn't want to go and get their brain healed. I know their brain is trying to heal itself. Thank you, Patrick McNamara, and all the smart trauma therapists, but they don't believe it. So, I mean, leave them alone to their shame, blame, fault, revenge, and the fear receptor going wonky, and then them having nightmares, and then them having breakdowns, and all the things that they want to blame monsters for. Nope. Answer. I found it hard to believe. Yes, any person who doesn't want to take care of themselves is going to give that. I don't give people who are pause self anything except for I'm not God. God keeps telling me to mind my own business because he gave you free will. Robert Sapolsky's giving you an excuse for why you don't have free will. It's called determined, and the scientists who know about it will say, well, really, it depends. Everybody loves somebody sometimes. Love doesn't win always. No, love is the frequency of those of us who are in the ventral vagal state because it's our oxytocin gene hormone, and it's because our biochemistry is of love, because that's when you're in a physiological state of compassion, because my insula lights up, my amygdala, my temporal junction, which is what the Zen master uses, but then he ruminates and sits there. I use my whole brain, prefrontal cortex. So I'm locked in and loaded. I'm an integrated brain. I don't scan Maria to say, give me a yes or no. My default mode network is downregulated. I'm actively in a state of compassion, which is why, like God is to me, discerning, equanimous, and loving, I will be to another, because I actually took the example of Jesus and Buddha, although I didn't sit under a tree. But Sadhguru and all of those who are therapists, Dr. Daniel Siegel, and am living restorative embodiment, and that's because I got lucky with a higher self. Maria has no exiles, protectors. So good parenting, and then you having a body that allows you to do that, and you choosing mindfulness practices. Mindsight skills are available to you because I have access to my emotional, mental, and physical body, all of it. There you go. So embodied brains that are smart get to be their self. The ones who make up stories, well, again, let's see. What was he saying? When I started therapy, all I could feel, okay, so he shares we can feel that emotions such as joy, sadness, disgust, and anger are somewhat broken for us. They are not, he says. We're just disconnected with them. He says Hallmark commercials of family love can make a tiny, brief connection where you are a bit shocked about where all the emotion came from. As children, he says, we leave our emotional body, emotions, to keep ourselves safe, ourselves. And I wish, he says, we could choose to keep the joy and skip the fear. But it doesn't work like that when a child isn't safe. There are innate feelings we are all born with. And he discusses this in his video called 3 Unnamed Childhood Trauma Symptoms CPTSD. A quick Google will bring it right up for you. So look him up, Patrick Tian, that way in case you're curious. The concept, he says, is something I call compromised emotional imbalance. He also talks about how a childhood trauma survivor will have a disrupted and, use a word, a distorted self. In fact, he's not the only one. It's a pause self, it's a distorted self, it's an adaptive child part. Terry Real will say, okay, let me see who your 3-year-old needed to defend you from. Your attitude is telling me that you are in this losing strategy. I'm going to prove I'm right. I'm going to take you down my path. I'm going to make it all about myself. If you don't take my side, I'm going to get hostile and start to insult you, and then I'll withdraw and I won't actually talk to you. That's the adaptive child part. And the Terry Real is a good therapist for couples who want to actually talk to each other. So you don't hold back, you don't hide things, you have functional adults. I'm nuanced. I have ambiguity. I'm okay with making mistakes. Not a performer. It ain't hard to keep a relationship going. I'm not afraid to speak up. This is why when you're yourself as infinite higher human conscious potential experience, I'm not afraid. This is who I am. What do you want? Oh, I won't come tell you what to be. No, I accept and respect who you want to be. And as long as you and I have healthy boundaries, we will be happy. If you choose to do something that is in your lack of best interest, of course, I will inform you. But as long as it is not physically threatening. I'm not going to be your babysitter. I'm not going to be the person who forces you to do any of that, which is your own health. I was taught how to respect people and allow them to do what they want to do by God and my mother. And that's just also by the therapist who let me know every person who doesn't want to take their nervous system and learn to regulate it won't. And that's why they'll say, I want to, Maria. I don't want self-help, personal development. It was an honor for me to do the child work, but now I don't want to do any more of it. Okay, you don't have to, but please stop telling us that life is suffering, because it's not. It just isn't. And resiliency and restorative embodiment, it's not, oh my God, I have to still do this. That's not how it works for smart brains. Stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. That's my acronym. It's, oh, I got a left and I got a right and I put them both in. Yep, I got thoughts. Oh, look, I got emotions. Oh, look, I got a party going on. That's how it works when you're yourself. That's it. You're not like, oh my God, I need to cancel me. I did something wrong. No, those are all people who, again, get your self-conscious ask to a therapist. And the ones who numb themselves also, go, have fun, and then come back around and we're going to have a party, because even comedians know it. They can't make a joke that everyone will laugh. No, they could. One day over the rainbow. So my utopia, it's all, guess what? Walk like an Egyptian. They're all love. All you need is love. Boom, ba-doo-doo. Yes, they're all love in their ventral vagal state. But, I'm actually grounded in reality. Thank you, Sam Harris. So my cherishable beliefs, they could all be falsifiable. Also, I'm also grounded in reality as a mystic. So I know that enlightenment and expansion of consciousness and human evolution happens because there's a variety of rainbows. Anima Mundi. I'm a channeler and downloader, and you know what I got from God? The heart and mind. Yes, God is discerning, wise, good judgment, equanimous, common-centered, and loving. Yes, his son showed me the way consistently. So did and so still does the Holy Spirit. And once I expanded to clairs, I said, no, I'm not anointed. It is my human makeup. The people in cloaks, not all of them will love me, because they think demonic spirits is not about the seeks to hurt, kill, divide, demoralize any people. No, it's my group is not a demonic spirit. Any other group is, and I don't like Reiki because it's using different words to talk about Holy Spirit. So I'm a theologian who's going to go grab yesterday's books. Here, I'm a Wendy, and I'm going to create something for Peter Pan. So people who think Reiki is bad energy, it's like people who think tarot is bad energy. And anybody who uses the word bad energy, I'm like, no, frequency isn't bad. You actively can learn to become securely attached and untraumatized, and that means you self-regulate your nervous system to the love frequency that Jesus taught me. Thank you, Jesus. As he shares, forgive, they don't understand, turn the other cheek, blessed are those who believe without seeing, and the kingdom of God resides within you, my dear children. Oh, and by the way, if you bring forth that which is within you, you will thrive. If you do not, you will die. No, you will eat yourself away with self-loathing, gut-wrench, torn apart. And he uses different words, but really it's straightforward as it gets. Where is that? Neuropeptides from trauma want to leave the body. Yes, through tears, people don't cry, and some of them just cry and ruminate, which doesn't make you release the charge. Urine and perspiration, yes, but without integration, you won't really do any of the healing business, because you didn't actually integrate the core narrative, relation, and solo self, because you didn't bother to notice that every sensation, image, behavior, affect, meaning has meaning, and that you have child parts, very bare minimums. You're 1-year-old, attached, panicky, through to 7, shame, submissive, fear, 11, 12, no, flight 11, 12, fight 14, 15, 16, freeze of all ages. Thank you to my teacher, Sue Martin. So when I see teenagers, I know, because, yep, there's the adaptive child fight response. They like roller coasters, and they don't actually go get their emotional body online. They numb it through numbing agents, and then they talk to you about it, all of them. And those are people who you will say prophecy or prophets or gurus. Well, you can call it what you want, but bringing forth the mind and heart of God, or bringing forth intelligence, consciousness, will encourage, comfort, challenge, and strengthen. It won't make you afraid, and it won't yell at you, and it won't punish you either, because it won't destroy you. How would it continue expanding if it destructed you? But also, it's not an idiot. So intelligence doesn't get vindictive or punishing. Anyone who thinks about optimism and pessimism doesn't know the land of neutrality, where we say, sure, some things can go well, some things can go bad. And yes, we do manipulate words according to how we want to expand on something, because that's how smart brains work. Because we teach our bodies to understand, hey, human secondary consciousness, it's always going to be You might be alive, you might be dead. But in the meantime, as we gather more information and move out into Anima Mundi and more, let's allow ourselves to just keep in mind that God, the very source of creation, divinity, and source, all of it, decided to split itself in two. Love, fear, to do what? Well, you have free will for those of us of source, God, spirit, and more, mystic. For those of science, determined says you don't. And then again, there are those of science who say, wait. They can get earned secure attachment, Maria. And that means they can become a whole self. And then they can own their sense of self. And once they're a verb, Maria, thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel, then they can also be in their restorative embodiment self. Yeah, they can. What is it? Trauma doesn't get deleted, but it can be minimized. What was it? Bessel van der Kolk, even 20 years. So people who do understand how their body, it's smarter than the left mode, with the brain, when you contain sensations, images, behaviors, affects, meanings, affects, window, a welcome to affects, expanding window of tolerance. Thank you, Janina Fisher. So again, go check out Patrick Tahan. Disgust, he says, is often confusing. If you have ever been in an abusive relationship, he says, lack of anger and disgust of how the person is treating you is a sign that your innate anger and disgust are disconnected. You know what happens when a person who has healthy self-worth actively stands for somebody and says, it's not really right. And they actually justify a person who treats them like a little piece of shit, or maybe it's also the opposite. There's no compassion for people who don't actually have healthy self-worth because of their trauma. So people who don't understand ambiguity in the middle, imperfection, yes, all of those people need Terry Real and Patrick Tahan because they don't know how life is lived. And the ones who want to pat on the back because of any of this, nobody pats anyone on the back. There's a solution. Hurt people don't have to hurt people. Numbing yourself doesn't have to happen. Healing yourself can happen, and you can actively continue to, with moderation, do every single thing, because nobody's going to make it a black or white thing. That's only the idiots who say, only vegan, only meat, only this, only that. Again, half brains take everything to the extreme. The ones who are intelligent know we have two sides to a coin. Many experts, we look into all of it. And that's, again, something that's very common sense to a person that's using a prefrontal cortex. It's not always common sense to the people who have personality patterns and temperament that get rigid because they don't know how to be flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable as their true self. Adaptive child part people freak out whenever you're giving them more information because they're exiles, protectors, or child parts, physiological responses. Again, so there's an explanation for biological rudeness. Us talking to them won't have anything because, as Terrio points out, they're just going to make it all about themselves. So again, they won't admit that their emotions are not lost, they're broken, and they're not lost or broken. They are just disconnected. So he says, and never part of you. So they're not lost, broken, never part of you, okay? And as we close on out, you just need to be plugged in. You need to get plugged into them. I was able to get the spectrum of basic feelings back by processing my childhood story with safe people in therapy and finishing the emotional business I had with my family. He says we can't make the connection without digging up what happened to us in safety. So again, check him out, Patrick Tahan, official. And as for us, we get to be here as healthy self-worth people who are going to support each other as we move forward in our lovely 5D frequency. And that's mystic, spiritual, mindfully living, loving with people, tapping into the infinite higher human conscious potential experience. It's really fun. Being yourself is even more fun. The inner growth mindset is supportive for those who have thoughts and feelings that they want to expand, lead from their own heart. And so you do know the importance of nervous system. The master class, when we get to our number, will be where those modules involve the nervous system particularly. So you do understand how your nervous system rules your feelings in the sense of if you are in eustress or distress. And the part about childhood trauma stuff, it's taken care of, first of all, which is why when someone's like, I want to do personal self-help, but they've done that childhood trauma, at least now they have their emotions back online. They know how their brain works. They've been given a series of exercises, mindfulness, journal, whatever it is, so they will know how they can walk themselves to more resiliency in their restorative, but they don't have to. And this is why we won't have only securely attached, non-traumatized, healthy self-worth in the restorative embodiment functional child adults, mystic, spiritual, mindfully living, loving people. No, we can have those who are very bare minimum functional adults. They know how to spell out in a very cold and indifferent tone or whatever. I don't know. We'll find out. But the point is that their frequency won't be on a high, because in order for you to be on a high consistently, again, it's not about it being optimistic or pessimistic. Is that I don't know everything. And if you're really going to present to me a scenario like that, well, first I'm going to ask you for a bunch of different subject matter experts. I want them in panels of discussions. I'm going to choose based on what your equation. Are you asking me about the universe? Okay, then I'm going to go get all the quantum physicists. I need to look up their titles, but I know exactly which group of people. I'm going to sit them all down and get them to present to me every single bit of whatever it is up till this date, and how long is that going to take. But I'm going to say I know who I would go to, because I know how to look for him. Who's that? Me, Maria. I know exactly what I would look for globally, depending on what worst case scenario presenting me. I won't use AI yet. I'll use AI after I get them all together in a room. It's that easy for a smart brain. Discerning, equanimous, loving brains. God, thank you so much. Intelligence always wins, because stupidity is the one thing that anyone who's always presenting to you these scenarios that are like, okay, really? Dark matter, dark energy. Give me a fucking break, please. Oh my gosh. And that's how it feels when you're hearing people make up shit again and again and again just because they don't know what the truth is. Oh, Anima Mundi, the truth, the soul of the world. You accept all and you reject none, but you're grounded in reality, like Sam Harris points out, to the point of where you don't deny the moon landing or the moon this or the moon that, because now we have a bunch of other theories. Conspiracy, might I add. Okay, so when you're afraid of people and your faith in humanity has been broken, it's more about that than anything else. I can say you don't have to believe in God, but I know the truth. The truth is you don't know everything, and anybody who's giving me some extreme example has a brain like mine. Mine has secondary human consciousness, and my brain will hone in on that which I'm afraid of. Yes. And it will be one very basic, simple thing. Death. And that's why it's not easier to die. No, it's easier to be alive, because as a human with secondary human consciousness, it's not a dilemma to those of us who have meaning. Use your human name. That's why I overflow in humanity. Maria. I don't want to die. I love my loved ones. I can be detached. It means I want to die as late as possible so I can enjoy. This is called mindfulness living, by the way. I know I have 24 hours. Do you? If you really did, how are you using your body, again, your brain, your all of it? So moderation with any kind of everything is very easy for a eustress body. Point is, I'm realistic. The truth is that when people present to you bullshit scenarios, it's because there's something wrong with their perception. My only fear is actual physical, tangible death, which is why when I was a hypochondriac with panic attacks, I'm like, hey, this is the worst case scenario. I got the good end of the stick, man. Neuropeptides, you leave, it's good, you keep leaving. So again, being yourself, very, very straightforward. Come and join us at IHP if you do enjoy the infinite higher human conscious potential experience as a mystic, a spiritual, or mindfully living, loving person. We got to do more of it. You can have video exercises for paid subscription-based model content. You can ask one-to-one mentorship, sign up for the masterclass, sign up for future workshops, retreats. Those two are based on a specific number, and we will find out whether they will be online, the retreats, workshops, because I'm a digital person. I like to be mobile. And also, some people, they don't have the capacity to travel everywhere. So that's why I like to be creative, and we have the opportunity, thanks to the internet, to do so. But obviously, I do look forward in the future, once we build a nice community and we have our also masterclass people and the mentorees, to get together every now and then, when and if we can. And if not, thank goodness we can connect through internet, because that's exactly what makes us happy. Those of us who are curious, open, accepting, and loving of mysticism, of spirituality, of sciences, of humanity, and of, hopefully, fingers crossed, that asteroid don't hit us. Because for God, again, as the chapter in the book that I'm a co-author of, discerning equanimous love, not a monster, and not here to make us afraid. No, consciousness expands. It split into two to expand itself. Love and fear gives you free will. So from the spiritual perspective, I already know. Kind and loving, whole self, be yourself. Unkind, unloving, no, you're still loving. You have childhood trauma or some shit went down, faith in humanity or unkindness is healable with someone like Patrick Tian or Terrell or somebody else, but a good therapist. And then you say, difference in the self-help. And I say, fine, go hang out with the Zen master who has laundry. I don't have laundry. I got ventral energy and all is good because I'm still breathing. I have water right here. I'm going to drink it in a bit. I got food. I mean, thank goodness. Let's hope these things can stay, because really, if there's no water and no food, we need to save our soil. There's priorities. It's still the basic necessities, unless you're an idiot. If you're an idiot, then you actually don't regard basic necessity as essentially what we want to move towards. We don't need to make everybody a vegetarian or carnivore. That's not the way. Again, scientists, not pop culture people with their likes and dislikes. Data people. The data people, that's so in the environment case, I know where I look for those. It's called data people, not the ones who are chiming in with their own personal opinions who have left academia. No, I left academia on purpose, and I know exactly where to find the ones who know how to validate, not validate, and then again, the ones with conspiracies, I know all about it. It doesn't destabilize a grounded in reality brain. The only ones who actually start to believe in Wendy are the same ones who put books on pedestals, and I don't put books on pedestals. And God doesn't go on a pedestal. God is God. And so again, when you're not confused of that which is intelligence, consciousness, source, God, everyone's in flesh, by the way. So, anybody who doesn't think they're in flesh must have forgotten where they came from. They must have forgotten what humility in and of itself. And in fact, God knows exactly what I think about those who did forget humility, integrity, and who bring forth not only toxic patriarchal traits or toxic matriarchy. Anything toxic is a person who's fear-mongering and divisive. And again, use words and names. I don't use words or names. I say, get healthy, be yourself, or, hey, Cusco, what's up? Who's your Wendy today? That's how I will feel. And they won't know any better because I'm so used to ignorant human beings chiming in. Excuse me, you're confusing science, spirituality. I have a fun time. I don't have to prove what I'm saying. I know where I learn it from and who I'm learning it from. And I can recognize an academic versus a storyteller. And the storytellers that I'm talking about, well, again, they grab books from just about anywhere, and they also choose to use words that are actually their own opinions. So like I said, I think today already, Jesus, not controversy. That's very straightforward. When people start making up shit, that's also straightforward. So the people who like to give us data, they like to give us data because they care about what they're learning. And you can tell because they're curious. They're seekers. And they're seekers in a way of saying, wow, look at what I heard, look at what I found out. And those are our IHP community with all of it. So welcome aboard and see you again soon.